Joining me right now, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. You know, Tom, politics aside here, let's take a look at who Judge Kavanaugh is. Walk me through some of his most significant decisions and how you see him approaching the bench.
Absolutely. And look, Trish, I think Judge Kavanaugh is a fantastic pick. He is widely acclaimed as brilliant, thoughtful, a true constitutional conservative. As far as his greatest hits, it's hard to know where to begin. I will choose one area of law that's close to my heart, and that's Judge Kavanaugh's decisions that have reined in the regulatory state. Judge Kavanaugh is very aware, and partly because of the court he currently sits on, the D.C. Circuit, hears a lot of appeals from agency decisions. And Judge Kavanaugh is very aware that over the last few decades in American life, agencies have really started to overstep their bounds, gone beyond the authority that Congress has given them, gone beyond the authority the Constitution has given them. And so he really has made it I don't want to say a project, but it has been a focus of many of his opinions about making sure that the constitutional balance is righted and that agencies and regulators are kept to their proper constitutional spheres.
So that, I agree with you, that's good. Yet that then helps the left's argument to say that, oh, you know, he was judge shopping and he picked the guy who's going to make sure he's clear because he doesn't want him to be bothered with any litigation as president of the United States. What do you say about that?
I do not buy that argument for a minute. I was frankly somewhat flabbergasted when I saw some people on the left putting that argument forward. I cannot imagine that that was on the president's radar screen when he made this decision. The fact is that even people who disagree with his political views, I think, have to admit that Judge Kavanaugh is unquestionably brilliant, deserves this seat. He writes opinions. The Supreme Court pays close attention to what he writes. He's extremely influential. He has a magnum opus. He's got more than 300 opinions that he has authored in the time that he has been on the court. He has a long track record. I don't think anyone can really question that this is a judge of incredibly high quality.
But does that go both ways? I mean, in other words, you now have people on the left saying, oh, you know, now we got 300 opinions that we can look through and we can use against him in this whole confirmation process.
You know, yes, I'm sure
it
that
shouldn't, by the way, because you want the information, but
that's right. And look, anytime you appoint a judge who sat on any court for any meaningful amount of time, there is going to be a big group of opinions that you can sift through. And I have no doubt in the months ahead we will see a lot of cherry picking, probably unfair cherry picking, where they choose a phrase here or a sentence there and try to create something out of Judge Kavanaugh that he's not. But look, the fact is he does have a long track record, and that's, I think, what should give conservatives, constitutional conservatives, a lot of heart, that this is a guy who has set forth his judicial philosophy. He has made clear where he stands on a lot of constitutional issues, not necessarily all of them, but he is someone who you know what you are getting when he gets appointed to the court.
The right pick. Was there anyone else that you thought might really be a great contender, or, did he miss any opportunity with any of these other folks that were in the running?
You know, when I saw the list of the four finalists, at least the people widely described as the four finalists, honestly, I thought they were all great candidates. You had Judge Barrett, you had Judge Hardiman, and you had Judge Kethledge, who, by the way, is another former Kennedy clerk. I think they all would have been terrific choices, but that's not to take anything away from Judge Kavanaugh, who I think is a superb choice and I think will be confirmed. I was heartened to hear Senator McConnell say that they are really focused on moving this process forward so that hopefully Justice Kavanaugh can take his seat in the fall. So it's good that they're moving it forward. I suspect the Democrats are going to do everything they can to delay this process.
They've already said it.
Yes.
I mean, Chuck Schumer's already said we're going to do everything we can to delay this process. I mean, that's where I get frustrated because
at least they're honest.
Well, true. I mean, this process is what has protected, frankly, our country for so many years. And to disregard that process is disregarding our history and disregarding our Constitution. But let me ask you about the big issue that they're all concerned about, and that's Roe versus Wade. How much is he going to be pushed on this very directly, very specifically in terms of those hearings from the Senate? And how much do you anticipate he'll say? And is his appointment going to lead to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is what the left will tell you?
Well, the one certainty is that Roe versus Wade is going to be an undercurrent and sometimes explicitly brought up during his confirmation hearings. I think the fact is there are a lot of senators, particularly those on the left, who this is an issue, maybe the issue that really fires up the base. And there's no question they are going to be hammering Judge Kavanaugh on his intentions vis-a-vis Roe versus Wade. At the same time, look, I mean, he is a smart guy. He is a knowledgeable guy. He is a modest guy. I think he knows that the confirmation hearing is not the time to start speculating on what he would do if he is presented with a particular case. I think he will speak very honestly about his respect for precedent. He has before. I suspect that's how he will handle those questions because, look, the people want to trap him, right? They either want him to somehow commit to upholding Roe versus Wade or announce that he intends to strike it down, and I don't think he's going to take the bait on any of those. I think he is simply going to say, I respect precedent, and I will decide the cases as they come up to me as a justice.
Well, it's pretty remarkable, right?
It is.
I mean, he's got two now. And, you know, if you believe Alan Dershowitz, he told us the other day he wouldn't be surprised if Ruth Bader Ginsburg throws in the towel because she's going to get sick of always having to be on the other side of everything. Is there any credibility to that, Tom, or do you think she's going to feel like she has to stay now?
Well, I don't know. My sense is Justice Ginsburg loves her job. I think she is a fighter. I think she is going to hang in there. I mean, I've argued before the court, you know, this term, and she's not slowing down. So we'll see. I mean, look, Supreme Court seats are always unpredictable. You never know when a vacancy is going to happen, and it's possible President Trump will even get a third shot at some point.